A decades-old conflict reignites between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The Nagorno-Karabakh region is again at the heart of the fighting, and many have been killed. Regional powers are calling for calm, but Turkey is taking sides. Will Azerbaijan be emboldened by Ankara support? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Hashim Ahalbarra. A flare-up of one of the world's oldest conflicts is raising fears of all-out war. The dispute between Armenia and Azerbaijan over the Nagorno-Karabakh region has left many dead, including a child. Both sides blame each other for starting the fighting on Sunday, and they've both deployed heavy artillery along the border. On Monday, Azerbaijan announced it was partly mobilizing its military. Armenia had already declared martial law, and its prime minister is warning of a large-scale war.
The
fact that Turkey is maintaining such dangerous behavior is fraught with the most devastating consequences for South Caucasus and the adjacent regions. The international community must prevent, with united efforts, the dangerous development of events and stop efforts to destabilize the region.
Both sides are claiming civilian and military casualties. The president of Azerbaijan says his forces came under attack first.
The armed forces of Armenia, using various types of weapons, including heavy artillery, fired on our settlements as well as military positions from several directions. As a result of the enemy shelling, there are casualties among the civilian population and military personnel.
This is the disputed region, Nagorno-Karabakh. It's internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, but the main area of the region in red is under the control of Armenian forces. The surrounding territory in green also belongs to Azerbaijan, but it too is controlled by Armenia. Hostilities involving Nagorno-Karabakh are nothing new. Azerbaijan and Armenia fought a 6-year war over the region that ended in a ceasefire in 1994. Both sides have accused each other of violating that agreement over the following years. The worst outbreak of violence was in 2016, when 4 days of fighting left dozens of people dead. More recently, tensions flared in July, when at least 16 soldiers were killed. The conflict has regional implications too. Russia has traditionally been an ally of Armenia, but Moscow has joined with other world powers in calling for calm. While Turkey is backing Azerbaijan, its foreign ministry has said it will stand by Baku. Let's bring in our guests. In Yerevan, we have Tivan Pogosyan, president of the International Center for Human Development. In Baku, Nigar Aparadarai, a member of the Azerbaijan's parliament. In Istanbul, Matthew Breiser, former US diplomat and mediator on the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Welcome to the program. Tivan, the flare-ups have been on and off for quite some time, for decades. But what has happened over the last few days that triggered this confrontation?
Historically, the really Karabakh issue, not the conflict, but Karabakh issue in its way, it's already then 102 years. Starting from 1988, the movement started. And in 1991, after the collapse of Soviet Union with declaration of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic independence, Azerbaijan started its aggression. And after that, for 30 years, we have a war with some temporary ceasefires agreement. The best one has been signed back in 1994 by the 3 conflict sides, Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, Azerbaijan Republic and Armenia Republic, and this is the only document because 3 signatures is there. But after that, from time to time, when Azerbaijan feel that it's getting stronger, have much more money, or is able to use the military force, they always initiate some military activities. And it's never been calm and peace. And I think this time there is also the role of Turkey, who supported Azerbaijan with the idea that we will be fully back you. And in their calculations, it was the time to initiate the full-scale military aggression against the Artsakh Republic.
Nigar, you've just heard what Tivan has been saying.
Yes, I heard. Thank you for having me today, first of all. The current escalation of Armenian and Azerbaijani conflict is the result of a series of unprovoked attacks by Armenian forces on Azerbaijani civilians and military targets. And actually, these attacks not happened now. They go on for the last 3 decades and resulted in the illegal military occupation of 20% of Azerbaijani territory and total ethnic cleansing of Azerbaijanis from the above-mentioned territories. I'm really surprised that our colleague from Armenia doesn't speak about 1 million international displaced person refugees who were expelled from occupied territories. Let's speak about today. What is happening today? Today is the occupation, it's the ongoing occupation. So we have to speak about that. Armenian occupation is well documented in numerous of international documents. OSCE, Council of Europe, UN, EU, Non-Alignment Movement, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and others. And let me draw your attention to the fact that there are 4 UN Security Council resolutions requesting withdrawal of Armenian forces, which Armenian side ignores for many years, which are obligatory, by the way, and stay still unenforced. Armenia implements a policy of illegal settlements on the occupied territories, while the international community, Armenia, misuses situation with the explosion in Beirut and makes the illegal settlement policy. They are bringing Lebanese people of the Armenian or the occupied territories. So let's not speak history. Let's go back to the international law. Let's speak of today.
Okay, perfect. Let me go to Matthew Bryce. Matthew, you've been involved in efforts to try to broker a permanent solution to the conflict of Nagorno-Karabakh. Do you have any concerns that what has been happening over the last few days could turn into potentially a full-blown military confrontation between Armenia and Azerbaijan?
Yeah, I do have that concern. I don't expect it because neither side wants a full-blown military confrontation, and I honestly don't believe either side could sustain one for an extended period. But emotions are intense right now on both sides, as we're hearing. And so I think right now Azerbaijan may feel it has a military advantage. It has reportedly regained some of the territory it had lost in the Nagorno-Karabakh war in the early 1990s. And my guess, it will continue pressing what it sees as its military advantage until it's stopped by Armenian forces. So we can see an escalation here. Considerably beyond where it is now. But I think at the end of the day, both Russia in support of Armenia and Turkey in support of Azerbaijan would prefer to see tensions reduce. And then I hope eventually we'll be able to bring their respective friends to the negotiating table.
I would like to spend some time talking about local politics because that will give us more perspective about what's happening. Tivan, now, the reason why I asked you earlier about why now, what has happened recently, because in summer of 2019, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan spoke about the need for bringing about change. But then he changed that rhetoric and said that it's about time to unify Armenia with Karabakh. And what has happened in between the time you signed the joint promise in January 2019 all the way towards the last few days?
I think the secrets in all these discussions is the way how for example, Azerbaijani colleague or even my old friend Matthew Bryce presenting from their interest sides. Say like I don't know, for the last 30 years, we're hearing the same stuff, 1 million refugees. And no one is talking about 500,000 refugees of Armenians from Azerbaijan and who started the military action. Why our colleagues forgetting about Sumgait pogroms, about Baku pogroms, about Ganja, or at that time it has been Kirov, about pogroms? Who started military there? Because the request of Armenians or the call of Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic was always peaceful. for historical reunification with Armenia. Now, when the rhetoric is started to play only in one side and forgetting that 4 resolutions of UN, first of all, is referring to Azerbaijan to stop military activities, and Azerbaijan should fulfill its action. And I always offering them to read the text in reality and not to use the propaganda. But because our discussion is this one, and after the calls of Nikol Pashinyan for sitting down in negotiations, there have been always unacceptable positions from Azerbaijan. Definitely what you're doing, you're also strengthening your rhetoric. And definitely whatever we're seeing now, it would be, guys, if you are not even ready for discussing common compromises, and you're asking for the one-sided unilateral kind of a giving up, forgetting that whatever is changed and situation now is just the result of your military aggression. Definitely it would be the one that Armenians would be strengthening their wording. And as of today, we would be always telling them that, guys, doesn't matter what kind of a pressure, doesn't matter how much money, doesn't matter if Turkey is saying that we would be from now on playing the policy one nation, two state. From one side, they wishing to having two state with one nation, but they're always saying there wouldn't be never any second Armenian nation.
All right.
That's why it's all discussions brought to this sense. But just 1 second. The point over which I think is the secret is that Azerbaijan never wished to really go with the peaceful negotiation. I think they already have a political decision with the using military solution. And they just always calculating which time in their calculations, Armenia weak. Let's start. First, they done in 2016, we win them again. Then they tried this summer in July, we win them again. And now Turkey is openly supporting by its militaries and everything. And they started again. And I do believe that we would win again.
Okay. Nigar, emotions are very high. So both countries are echoing the same feelings of national pride and the need to take revenge. I would like to ask you this. Is the political establishment in Azerbaijan willing for a compromise anytime soon? Or do you think there are loads of things which are at stake to the point where a compromise won't be on the table anytime soon?
First of all, let me show you something. This is the wife of Armenian Prime Minister. She's wearing a uniform, military uniform. She's having a rifle, and she is in Nagorno-Karabakh. Can you please tell me, what is she doing in Nagorno-Karabakh? She's aiming at someone, I assume Azerbaijanis. Can you please tell me? Secondly, again, you are saying that you have nothing to do with the UN Security Council resolutions. Then what is your defense minister? I just picked up from news today. What is he doing in Nagorno-Karabakh now? Can you please answer my question? UN Security Council resolutions has clearly said that Armenia has to withdraw its troops from the occupied territories of Azerbaijan. And secondly, one more thing I will show you. This is the image of the house in Naftalan. It's the area 100 kilometers far from the border, far from Nagorno-Karabakh. Yesterday, it has been hit, and 5 people from one family died, including 2 siblings. So I think that we have to start with this. And also one comment to Sumgait, my colleague from Armenian mentioned. Do you really want to discuss what happened in more than 30 years ago, what happened in the former Soviet Union and orchestrated by KGB? Okay, let's talk about Khojaly. Khojaly, which was carried out, this is the genocide, which was carried out during independence of Armenia, which was arranged and managed and committed by Armenian military forces and Armenian political leadership. For those of you who doesn't know, Khojaly was the village, and it was ethnic cleansed, and it was the murder of the whole town. Azerbaijanis died there. So let's start with this. And again, let's start with the civilians who are dying right now at the border. Azerbaijan is defending. Azerbaijan is not fighting on Armenian territory. Azerbaijan is defending its border. You want peace, you start with liberation of Azerbaijani lands.
Okay. Matthew, well, as you know, this is such a complex, explosive political landscape where ethnicity, history, the long divide in the region, the Soviet legacy, and many factors have created the reality that you see playing out. Now, the international community has been calling for the need to de-escalate. I mean, how do you see that translated on the ground? What could be the first step both parties have to take for them to start the de-escalation process?
I think Pandora's box is now open. And, you know, the two parties were quite close in January 2009 to agreeing on a framework to settle a conflict. As Mr. Bogosian Tevan, who really is a dear friend of mine, by the way, remembers. And at the time, he'll remember that he conducted a set of public opinion polls around Armenia. And what had been agreed by the then Armenian president with the Azerbaijani president in principle was not acceptable to public opinion in Armenia. And the same was true in Azerbaijan. So there's a framework out there that's been agreed to previously. Prime Minister Pashinyan has said over the course of the last few weeks, I no longer want to adhere to that previous framework. I think to get back to that framework is a way we could get longer-term de-escalation. But first what has to happen is the military operations now obviously have to come to an end. And as I said in my first intervention, my sense is Azerbaijan is going to push until it feels it has regained a politically significant amount of its territory and is in a militarily defensible position. And at that point, Armenia will feel compelled to counterattack. So there'll be an action-reaction cycle. And I think in the end, it's going to be Turkey talking to Baku and Moscow talking to Yerevan that will push things to be even quieter, which is difficult for me to say as a former U.S. diplomat, by the way, that Moscow is going to need to play this role.
Tevan, Prime Minister Pashinyan came to power after he brought about a dramatic change in the country and said it's about time to move forward, to change the mentality, to open up the political establishment, to introduce genuine political reforms, to pave the way for a vibrant democracy. Sadly, he finds himself trapped in what could be the biggest challenge in his political career. Isn't this one of the reasons why he is trying to look like a hardliner in Armenia? Because this is the general sentiment. And by doing this, he might lose a lot in the near future.
Okay, because there was a few questions to me, let me shortly just answer and return to your question. First of all, if our Azerbaijani colleagues don't like to discuss history, then don't discuss history. Why you discussing something, whatever you signed back in Bishkek 1994? Just immediately recognize Nagorno-Karabakh Republic and get negotiation with them directly. Artsakh would be very glad to speak with Baku directly. Ask your president to call there directly. Second, about this Khojalu and all other stuff, I think better to ask Mutalibov, not me, what happened in Khojalu because of the internal politics. And back to once short comment about Matthew. Remembers. I would also try to remind, because he is also a long diplomat, about Kiev's discussions. And I think perfectly he knows that sometimes Aliyev was not being able to sell the compromise. Sometimes Sargsyan was not able to compromise. And even Kazan, Aliyev Jr. was not being able to agree with the compromise. Now, the issue is turning to the real interest. Okay. Now, from the real interest side, let me answer your question. I don't think that Prime Minister of Armenia sounds kind of a strong and nationalistic. There is always national dreams, and these national dreams has been possible to come. I don't know why the democratic changes in Armenia make someone believe that if we're democratic, then we need to give up. In this regard, we would be discussing what? The U.S. is the most democratic country in the world, and any country, whatever would ask from U.S., should be giving up.
All right.
No, it's our interest, it's our security, and it's our possibility to preserve security in the region.
I see your point. Tevan,
I see your point. Actions which is done by Azerbaijan was not really proved that they're really interested in the to sit down at the negotiation table for peaceful solution search.
I appreciate if you can give me, all of you,
whatever is a result.
short answers, because we have many other angles to cover. Nigar, there are others who say, on the other hand, that Ilham Aliyev is using this for a political purpose. He's facing an economic crisis, COVID-19, ramifications from COVID-19, and he's trying to deflect attention by reigniting that further, that nationalistic sentiment among the Azerbaijanis, because he knows people are really upset about the economy.
First of all, I would like, coming back to the topic of democracy. A few days ago, Armenian leader Pashinyan put in prison Armenian opposition leader Tsarukyan for obvious political reasons. And you tell me about democracy. Where is your former president now? I mean, I'm asking my Armenian colleague. In prison. So let's not speak about democracy, because as usual, Armenia is creating a smokescreen, an illusion, and I don't plan to go into a long history of political murders in Armenia. There's not a single senior position in Armenia, apart from president, including prime minister, speakers, deputy speaker, who haven't been murdered by some terrorist or political forces. So please, let's not speak about democracy in Armenia, because Armenia is an expansionist state. I must admit that. For which the political ideology is territorial gains of its neighbors.
Can you answer my question, Nigar? Can you answer my
yes. Coming back to the point, I want just to show you again. I'm sorry, I have too many photos today, but this is the son of Armenian Prime Minister. And 2019, he was serving his military in Nagorno-Karabakh. Can someone explain me how does it happen?
But I appreciate if you can answer my question about Ilham Aliyev.
Again, coming to the solution to the conflict, there is a solution. There is international law. So can you please go back to the principle of international law, and then there will be solution. There is a way to peace. The way to peace again goes through the liberation of our land. And one more point.
Very briefly, please. Very briefly, if you don't mind. I have to go to Matthew.
So again, about
Matthew, do you think that the Minsk group, which was established back in the 90s by the OSCE, which is the Organization for Security and Cooperation, could be still the relevant platform to solve this particular problem?
Well, as the former U.S. co-chairman of that grouping, I think at the moment, no. I think, again, Pandora's box is open for the moment. And this military engagement is going to run its course, for better, for worse, and it's tragic for everybody. But there will come a time when hopefully the fighting will stop, I mean, sooner rather than later, and then the sides are going to have to get back to some sort of a negotiating framework, right? As von Clausewitz, the great Prussian military theorist, taught us, war is a continuation of politics by other means. So when that time comes, then the Minsk group again can play that role. However, Russia must be very careful. If Russia is seen as intervening too actively on the side, in this case of Armenia, it will undercut its credibility as a mediator. And then the Minsk group will be hamstrung.
Tivan and Nigar, I have this particular question for you, but I really appreciate if you can give me answers in less than 15 seconds. Tivan, do you still believe that diplomacy should be given a chance?
Always. And first of all, with the recognition that in any way, there is no other alternative to the peaceful solution of Nagorno-Karabakh. But in regard of the political or diplomacy to work, you need to have a democracy. Unfortunately, autocratic countries talking about democracy, which is really funny. And specifically for Nigar,
I gave you less than 15 seconds. Nigar, I would like to go to Nigar because we're running out of time. Nigar, please.
Yes, I would say that our 1 million IDPs have right to live on their land, and they should go back to their territories. And we have to go back to international law. Azerbaijan is always acting in accordance with international law. So this is the thing. Even now, we have always doing everything in line with international humanitarian law, and we have no intention of any attack on any Armenian territory. We do not target civilians.
We have to live with that.
Illegal occupying forces on the territory of Azerbaijan, as long as they keep on occupying.
Nigar, thank you. I really appreciate, ladies and gentlemen. Nigar Arpada Rai, Tivan Pogosyan, and Matthew Breiser. Really appreciate your contribution to the program. Looking forward to talking to you in the near future as the story of Nagorno-Karabakh continues to unfold. Thank you too for watching. You can see the program again anytime by visiting our website, aljazeera.com. For further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Hashim Ahalbara, and the whole team here in Doha. Bye for now.